Welcome to Spirit Q+A, where we question spiritual authority and answer spiritual questions to give you the life quality assurance you need for the happy ever after that you deserve. Today we ask, how can we be real in a fake world? Is this reality real? What is fakeness? What is realness? And what are we really here for? Let's find out. Hi, I'm Carl Johann Schroeder, and I love to be real. I'm a spiritual teacher who doesn't put myself on a pedestal. I really want to be human like we all are. We're here to grow. We are here to share what works for ourselves with each other, to inspire each other, to help each other to be more real. You know, realness, when you get to be yourself with a friend, that's what a real friend is for, right? You get to be yourself. You get to be good enough. You get to say what's on your mind, on your heart. And if you make a mistake or if your friend has a differing opinion, it's okay. You're good enough. You might even be perfect. I love the quote from Oscar Wilde. He said, "Be yourself. Everyone else is taken." You remember Oscar Wilde? He was that playwright in the late 19th century, very popular, and his life was pretty much destroyed toward the end by being convicted for indecent acts from the British society at the time, and even into the 1950s had criminalized homosexuality. So, yeah, in the 1950s, if you recall, Alan Turing, the famous computer genius who laid the foundations for modern computers and also helped to save us from in the war, World War II. He busted the Enigma code. He could not be real. He ended up being convicted for being homosexual, and he took his own life from the chemical treatments that he was given to suppress his real self. Those are just absolute tragedies of people not getting to be themselves in the society. And God knows there have been so many cases of sexism, racism, different kinds of prejudice and bigotry throughout the ages. People just don't get to be themselves, don't get to be real. Well, many of us on the spiritual path have experienced lifetimes of, if you understand and believe in past lives, and really all lifetimes are simultaneous, but yeah, you have lived before, you will live again. You are an eternal soul. So many of us have experienced persecution, and that echoes down through the ages, various kinds of repression. Personally, I believe that in this lifetime, I got to be a white male in the United States, because that would be a very privileged position in which I wasn't out to take privilege. I just wanted to be safe. I wanted to be able to express more of who I really am, what I was really thinking and feeling. So I grew up in a small town in the United States. I had pretty decent community, family, and I got to speak my mind. And I was always somebody who was really idealistic. I was really into fantasy and sci-fi. I had spiritual experiences that I didn't really understand. But I knew one thing. I knew that I wanted to get to the bottom of what is real. And so I would often ask my parents, I would stress people out with the most personal, philosophical, existential questions I could come up with. And I didn't understand why some people would get very defensive. But I have understood now that it does have to do a lot with this persecution and the kind of judgments, the kind of condemnations that have come on people just for being themselves, just for speaking their truths. So where does that come from? Because, see, there are two kinds of judgment in life. One are the personal value judgments. Those are your personal opinions about what is good for you. You absolutely need those to grow as an individual, to get to know thyself, as the Temple of Apollo said in Delphi, Greece, a very famous phrase, get to know thyself. Yourself will set you free. We're going to talk a little bit more about this in this fairly short video. I don't want to go too long. It's the first of a series. And my soul has been pushing me to get more practical with shorter stuff because I've done a lot of long lectures over the years. but I've really gained my confidence and understanding of reality and nice ways to explain it. So this first video is about being real, and it's dedicated to a friend that I had a misunderstanding with just today. Basically, without going into details, I run a lot of groups online, and I said something or did something that offended this person, and I really didn't mean to. And as soon as it came out of me, I knew that they were taking it the wrong way, but it wasn't appropriate to go into it in the group. This person left early, and I emailed them afterward, and we're working it out. But basically, I was really horrified that I did what I did. It was a kind of little slip that was easily misinterpreted by her, given her sensitivities as an African woman. I totally understand. And I realized this morning, I felt so ashamed, so sorry. And I realized the only way I could fix this, there's no guarantee of fixing, but I just had to be real. I had to be perfectly honest with her, which meant going into some really personal spiritual details that may again be, taken the wrong way. I mean, you have to let people take things, what you say, the way they're going to do. But you speak your truth, and you speak it within the boundaries of safety for yourself because you love yourself. But I've always in my life trusted that I could go as far as I could to speak my truth because I wanted to show people the example. I felt it. That's what I'm about. I wanted to show the people the example of just how amazing life can be if we open up to ourselves and to each other. So with this friend today, I had to email to her and say, look, there are past life issues getting triggered here. I know I'm a white guy, and I've, enjoyed a certain amount of privilege in my culture. I became a computer scientist. I had a whole career in computer science, but I was always pushing the limits, always pushing the boundaries of what I could talk to with people. Because actually, in my first job after college, I had a big spiritual awakening, and I realized computers were not nearly as interesting as the universe itself. It's a living, loving organism. It is our companion for eternity. We are consciousnesses. Oh my God. I was like, God is real. God is creator, great spirit, whatever you want to call it. So that was my spiritual awakening in my early 20s. And then I had to make peace with the day job. Well, the way I made peace with it was, okay, I'm going to take every opportunity to tell people about incredible spiritual, mystical experiences, lucid dreams and meditations and synchronicities and past lives and all this stuff that was coming to me. I've been known as the person who would talk about these things at work. Some people would push me away, and some people really enjoyed me being such an oddity, an eccentric. So to my friend today, I had to email her. It's like, look, I love you. Like, you are so amazing. You are so brave. She's an artist, and she's an African woman in a society where there are a lot of things against her, and she is going to keep trying, and she gets wounded easily because she wants to be honest, and I was honest with her. It's like, basically, you bring up a lot of the things in myself, and I said what I said, I did what I did, out of some of that spontaneously as a human being. And this is where I want to get to the point of being real. We need to be real as human beings and as more than human beings. We are split, dual beings. We are both a human who is in this reality, which is, to a large extent, fake. It's a simulation. And we are also a spiritual being who's above this reality, so that when we make mistakes as human beings, we can move to a higher level, speak our truths, and discover it wasn't so much a mistake as an opportunity to learn more about love, because the universe runs on love. You've heard the expression, only love is real. It's true. What it's referring to is the fact that, well, my thumbnail definition for love is the ability and willingness to help someone you care about to have a wonderful life. Now, you have a higher self. You have a greater being above the level of belief systems which creates reality. As human beings, we're down here in the reality, experiencing the different belief systems. And you can change your beliefs, and it can be tricky. But we've all adapted to society by taking on a lot of beliefs that then interpret and filter everything that happens for us. So, for example, my friend took it very personally when I said something that really wasn't meant personally, was kind of odd. And I had my whole inner experience for why that happened. I feel grateful that I could even talk about some of my past lives, the way that I relate to her, that we could connect, and we'll see what she thinks of all that. The point is, don't be afraid to be real, because you're always going to be proud of yourself. You're going to be glad that you were as authentic as you could be, again, within safe boundaries. You don't go around with a kick me sign on your back, but you be as real as you can be. And then let the chips fall where they may. Let other people see your example of being real, being authentic, genuine, honest, present, sincere, expressing your emotions, expressing your thoughts, expressing your hopes and dreams. Let other people see that so that they can decide what they will do with that. We've got to give each other that chance to be real. Realness includes letting each other have our own free will, do what we will with situations. So let me offer a few ideas on realness. One is, I see there being 3 factors in realness: to be centered, to be grounded, and to be balanced. So what I mean by that is, centered, that's the feeling when you feel like you are yourself. You feel like on center, like alive, like present, as opposed to when you feel really uncentered, you're groggy, you're foggy, you don't know who you are. It's the feeling of being being at a party when you don't want to be at a party, or nothing, you're not connecting with anything, and you're not connecting with even yourself. You don't know who you are. It's a really awful feeling, and it's a losing of life force. It's a losing of life energy. So centered is wonderful, but there's more than just centered, because centered is a spiritual experience. When you know yourself, and that could include saying things that are completely unfitting, inappropriate for the current culture, the current society. So being grounded, that's another aspect. That's when you're being the practical human being. Many people are very grounded. They do the work. They take care of themselves. They earn the money. They fulfill their social functions. They don't necessarily know who they are, though. You can be very grounded. You can be building a whole entire life, and then later on have one of these existential crises, one of these midlife crises, where you realize, like, I've played by the rules. I worked hard. It was gratifying and satisfying in its own way to be really, human, really physical, really get a lot done. And then what's it all for? I don't know who I am. A lot of people, they got the house, they got the family, they got the career, they travel, everything. And they have these big questions of, like, who am I? What am I for? What is this life for? Well, that's the spiritual side. So you need to be centered in your spirit, in your soul, to know what you need to know as a spiritual being. And you need to be grounded, practical as a human being. You've heard of the phrase spiritual bypassing, or I like to call it shortcuts to heaven. That's when a person is going just for the centeredness, and they're so excited, you get so passionate. Like, I have ideals, I have visions, oh my God, I know what I am, I know what I'm here for. It's like, and then these people can be completely impractical, completely ungrounded. They're scared of doing the work, they're scared of getting involved in the day-to-day existence. You need to do both. You need to be spiritual at a high level of ideals and truth and honesty with who you are, ever growing, ever expanding. And then you need to be human, boots on the ground. Rubber meets the road, where the buck stops. You got to be taking care of yourself as a human being. And the third point, balancing. Continually balancing those two, because life is dynamic that way. You've got to be a being who is getting to know yourself in a very high ideal way. And then every time you figure out a new value, a new passion, a new vision, excitement, act on your dreams. You've got to do stuff to get it in the world, to take your risks, to take your calculated risks, to, if you fall, pick yourself up. Trust your emotions. Your human emotions are there to help guide you for what is right for you and what isn't right for you. It's not going to work to try to avoid unhappiness and only be happy. You've got to be human. You'll balance things and you'll get to know yourself that way. So as I said, the idea of only love is real. That love is the ability and willingness to help someone you care about have a wonderful life. There are 2 qualities there. Actually, I want to backtrack. I realized I didn't finish my thought on judgments. A big reason why people avoid being themselves is because of the judgments, the two kinds of judgments. The one kind was getting to know yourself, personal value judgments. What's right for you? What excites you? What helps you get centered and grounded? What are your needs? To be honest with all of that. Those are personal values. Those are personal opinions. Those are personal needs and desires. The other kind of judgment comes when people don't really know themselves and they are scared of the world. And so they make absolute condemning, punishing judgments. And that's the kind of stuff that societies that are repressive and fundamentalist religions, they hurt people. They're infamous for this kind of stuff. This is the sexism, the racism, the prejudice, the bigotry, the incredible intolerance, the demands that you need to do exactly what we tell you to do or else you are a bad, wrong person. The incredibly hurtful invalidation, telling you that you aren't right to exist, that you shouldn't be and you shouldn't do, that either your being or your doing is wrong and bad. This is where people get really crippled and hurt. So it's a difference between the personal value judgments. That's the live and let live. That's where I know what's good for me, and I would love for you to figure out what's good for you. I'd be happy to tell you about my experiences, my adventures in figuring out what's right for me. See if that any of that helps you in any way. I just want you to be you. That's how I feel as I said, a spiritual teacher, but I'm not here to put myself on any pedestal. I'm here to share my experiences to awaken us all, because we are all part of one great divine universe. We are here to find out how we all fit together after as we find out who we are even within ourselves. So a lot of people fall back on the condemning, punishing judgments just because they're scared of the world. They're scared of finding out who they are. They're scared of finding out what kind of punishments might be for them, so they go along with punishing society. And you see a lot of the really condemning, uptight, anal retentive kind of like control freaks in the world. They're so uptight because they are tiptoeing around their own judgments. It's like you listen to a person who has a lot of awful judgments, and maybe they trigger you and maybe they don't. But you realize, like, ultimately, the one who's suffering the most is themselves. They have to live with themselves. These people who are, like very judgmental, fundamentalists, like it's our way or the highway, we are the only right way to live. You see them, they're like tiptoeing around their own judgments. They're terrified of discovering something within themselves that they have already been saying for years. Anybody like that should be punished, should be judged, should not even exist. So you really want to be a live and let live kind of person, so that everyone gets to be real. So only love is real. Love is that helping someone to have a wonderful life. Now let's get to the point here. What is the design of the universe? What is going on with this reality? Because you hear a lot about how reality is an illusion, it's fake. Is it a simulation? Our culture these days, well, we've always had concepts of imagination, of plays, Shakespeare talking about all the world is a stage, a play. But simulation theory has gotten really intense with video games and computers, because we can simulate entire environments. And really what that's showing is that the consciousness, the awareness of people, is ready to face itself, to see how much this whole world is a virtual reality experience. So don't get ungrounded. Don't let your human being get all scared, like, oh my God, I've been spending my whole life, like gathering security and all, and now you're telling me none of it's real? It's real in how you use it. It's not what you have, it's what you do with it in life. This reality is a shared virtual reality experience. You share it with the people who are like-minded. That's the whole concept of law of attraction. You will connect with people who see the world, feel and think the way you do. And so in this shared virtual reality experience, it's an opportunity to have relationships, to build relationships, because what's real is the feelings, the experiences that this reality generates. So it's a lot like watching a movie, another great metaphor for realities, right? That we have movies. So if you go to a movie with a friend, you watch the movie, you don't forget that you're there with your friend. You're trying to have a good time with your friend. You don't get lost in the movie and think like the movie is so real and, oh my God, when it's over, like I died and all this stuff. And yet people do that with their lives. Well, I mean, we understand that the human experience is incredibly rich, incredibly detailed. And you are meant to pursue pleasure. You are meant to pursue happiness. You are meant to have all these needs. See your needs as gifts. I know that can be difficult. Many times we see our needs as burdens, like, oh my God, I've got to find a shelter, I've got to find food, I've got to find this and that. But the universe loves you and is caring for you. Those needs are going to drive you to get out there and find out what is there for you in the world and learn more about who you are, what is right for you and what isn't right for you. So really, here's how it works. There is only consciousness. Consciousness is the awareness. The awareness, consciousness naturally grows. You notice that when you've had enough of an experience, at first, you're really kind of lost in the experience, very reactive. You get used to it, you get good at it, you'll be able to step back and now observe yourself in that experience. That consciousness is always growing that way. It learns to become familiar with an experience and then it can grow and step back from it. There is only consciousness. This reality, very, very complex, very, very detailed, many, many layers of beliefs and expectations that build our experience, all the way from the quantum world and atoms and molecules, all the way up to everyday social life. Many, many layers of beliefs and expectations, of choices and free will. But that is the stuff that reality is built out of. Here's how it works. You are a greater divine being. You are actually the entire universe experiencing yourself from your position. You are backed by the power of the entire universe through your eyes, through your perspective. And your perspective, your position in life is unique, is incredibly valuable. We'll see in coming years, people will be less oriented toward the materialism that says, the stuff out there is what's real. People are secondary. Just get money, just get supplies, just get food. And we'll worry about the feelings later. We'll have some love and good feelings if we can afford it. But it's the stuff that's real. No, we're going to see increasingly what matters is the perspectives, people's viewpoints, somebody who's passionate, who's interested in something, who has an incredibly inspiring way of looking at the world. I feel I have a lot of inspiration I want to share. That's coming straight from my consciousness. That is just how I experience things. That is your true value. All of this material stuff, society is getting good at it, supplying it. All the machinery, all the automation and nature was abundant to start with. We don't have to worry about the material needs being met. It's our personal experience, the realness of being present with our own experience and to be able to share it with friends. What did you experience from that? Well, this is what I experienced. True friends, when you were with like-minded people, you send each other higher. You get inspired and excited. Like it's like triangulating on a position. You get more perspectives on the truth of life. As I said, I want to sum up. Here's what happened. Here's how the universe, how reality, how the earth came to be. You are a greater divine being, this vast, unlimited consciousness. You see the earth system, which is this huge, complex collection of beliefs about how science works, physics, nature, biochemistry, beliefs about societies, beliefs about different choices, and you wanted to have a human life. And there is nothing to build anything out of except consciousness. So the only way you can have a human life, to get an avatar into the earth game, is to put a piece of your consciousness as a greater being in that game. And then to raise that consciousness to get to know itself, to have its own love, because love has to be discovered, has to be chosen. Love cannot be automatic. Love, if somebody is forced to do something nice for you, that's not love. If a robot is programmed to do nice things for you, that's not love. You may wish for some love, but that's you feeling it with yourself. The robot doesn't love you, and the person who's a slave, who's forced to do things for you, doesn't love you. No, love has to be genuine, authentic, real, voluntary. And so what's happening in the Earth system, I know there's been a lot of suffering and pain, but it's one time. It's once and done. You will awaken. You will have the Ascension experience is becoming the creator in the creation, getting your soul in your body to be grounded and centered and balanced all here now. And what's happening is that you will learn to reconnect with your higher self, with your greater self, who is above the belief systems that create reality. And you will live in both worlds. You will be the spiritual being and you will be the human being. Very much like this morning when I was trying to figure out what to do, the misunderstanding with my friend. At the human level, I was mortified. I can't believe that I made a little slip up. I meant no harm, and yet she took it so badly. What can I possibly do about that? At the human level, you will feel things like shame and regret and remorse and guilt and all kinds of stuff. But then I felt enough of that, accepted myself, let myself be real with myself, be my own friend, be your own friend, let yourself be who you are, let it have a meaning, it's going to work out somehow. And then I moved to the spiritual level and I got this guidance from my higher self. Be honest with her, be honest with yourself. Bring it out. This has more to do with past life connections, with your sensitivity to prejudice and racism. Even though you're a white guy in this life, you know that I had those privileges, those abilities to explore and be real with myself in ways that, yeah, I know that if I was such a weirdo eccentric in my jobs, if I hadn't been a white guy, I probably would have been much less tolerated and would have lost my job sooner. I did eventually lose my job anyway, but with divine timing to be the spiritual teacher that I've always wanted to be. So this is a story about you going home. You have a greater being that created you in the earth system as a consciousness. Learn to accept and love yourself with the centering, with the grounding, with the balance. You will connect increasingly with your higher spiritual being, who is going to be like, welcome home. We have the most beautiful lifetimes planned for you. Spiritual teachers like Abraham Hicks talks about this, how your soul, Abraham Hicks calls it your inner being. Your inner being, your soul, your higher self, many names for it, many ways to work with it. They have such beautiful plans for you. Abraham Hicks says your soul, your inner being has 20, 30 lifetimes of success, of joy, of wealth, health, and happiness, all planned for you, all ready for you. Just learn to love yourself and go home. Go home to your greater self that created you in the earth system. You have a destiny. You are meant to have the most wonderful time forever. Once you have mastered loving yourself, accepting yourself, being real with yourself. And people that you can't be real with, can't be safe with, let them go. Don't do the absolute judgments. Do the relative personal value judgments. I know what's right for me. I don't know what's right for you. You can't be with me. I can't be with you. I let you go. The universe can only refresh and bring to you the best friends if you let go the people that aren't right for you. So, what did I want to conclude on? I wanted to conclude on, how do I know this? I talk with a lot of authority, a lot of conviction. It's because I really know. Because above the layer of belief systems that create a lot of human experience, when you connect more and more with your spiritual being, your higher self, which is most of you, just a part of you, kind of like a finger of your greater body is in the earth pie, as it were, the finger in the pie. But the more you connect with the higher truths, the more you just know how the universe really works. So that even though, life is a stage, life is an illusion, life is a movie, a lot of suffering can get staged. It's real experiences. People are really suffering. It's terrible, the tragedy of it all. And yet it's not real. That's not how the universe works. It's not real in the sense that it's not sustainable. It will get healed. You don't really die. You don't really lose anything. You're just experiencing that way. It's like a bad movie. I like to say that hell is a nightmare in heaven. You never left heaven. You are actually learning how to have dreams in this reality. So I remember I wanted to say one, how do I know these things are true? Some people know by having near-death experiences and then being medically revived and coming back and like, oh my God, the afterlife is real. I went through a tunnel of light. I met all my relatives. Everybody's alive and well. And then they said I had to go back and like, no, don't make me go back to that awful place. Well, I didn't have a near-death experience, but some of that feeling, absolutely, of many spiritual, mystical experiences, and then like, how do I go back to that difficult human experience? But every time I was guided, it's like, it's going to work out. You are meant to go back. You are meant to integrate it all. So I work with a lot of, everybody has their personal specialties, their personal preferences for whatever reason, for whatever strengths and weaknesses of your mission, of what you want to do once you have woken up and returned to your higher self. But I do a lot of dream work, and I do a lot of work with my past lives, other lifetimes. So in dream work, a good example, one time at my workplace before I was eventually fired for underperformance and being weird. But one time I was telling my coworkers, like, yeah, I'm going on a date with this dream woman. And they were saying, like, great, you know, she's dreamy, you like her. And it's like, no, literally, she's the woman I met in my dreams. And they're like, what are you talking about? It's like, is this another weird Carl story? It's like, yeah, when there was this back in, it wasn't that many years ago. My dog in the background there, he's excited. So I dreamt of a woman that I had never met before, and I couldn't see her face too clearly, but I knew in the dream, this is a real person, and I am meant to find her. I'm meant to meet her. So I asked her in the dream. I asked, what is your name? And she told me. I asked her, tell me some other identifying things about you. She told me a location that was kind of like a riddle. It wasn't real clear. She told me her height. The most evidential thing was she showed me an art project she was working on. And when I woke up, I was like, that is real. I got to find this person. I wonder where in the country, where in the world they are. I hope they're not too far away. A couple of days later, I came across that name, that height on a dating site. And it turned out, so I contacted her, and we couldn't get together right away. She was going to see the Matrix movie for the first time. You know, so many of us have been living with Matrix movie ideas for so long. She was going to see it for the first time. And I said, great, enjoy the movie. It's about how reality is all a kind of simulation, and the real world, well, in the Matrix movie, the real world is a hell. You wake up into hell, and that's not realistic. In the real world, you wake up into heaven. You wake up into a heavenly, beautiful place. And I told her, like, yeah, let's have a date after you see the Matrix movie, and I'll tell you about the real Matrix. So it was fun. It was like, I think we got together like a day or so after she had seen the movie. And it was really wonderful. She was such a good vibe, such a good energy. We dated wonderfully for a month, and then we were friends thereafter, and it was meant to be. It turned out we grew up in another part of the country. We grew up near each other. We had a lot of experiences in common. We really had a spiritual connection. It's one of these mysterious connections. Like, I don't know, I'm drawn to this person, and then we have all these things in common. So I told her, I met you in a dream first. You told me your name. You told me your height, and you showed me this art project you were working on. And I described it to her. And she said, oh my God, that's what I just made. She made it for her church. It was to symbolize her soul. And what she did was, she put a disco ball inside of a box, so that she was representing that her light is, you know, not everyone sees her light, but within this box is a shining disco ball. And that's exactly what I saw in the dream. This person showed me that they were working on, it was actually bigger in the dream than in reality, but they had this box that had a shining, glimmering disco ball turning inside of it. I told her, and she was like, oh my God, that's exactly what I'm working on. And she was so excited. It's like somebody saw her light. Somebody saw within her box. It's amazing. So yeah, we ran back to her place, and she showed me, and like, there it was. It was amazing. So as I said, I told people at work, I've got a dream date with a dream woman. Literally, I met her in a dream first, and they were like, no, really? Can that happen? Really? What? Oh my God, that's amazing, Carl. Maybe she's the one. And I'm like, she's the one that I need to meet next. I mean, I've given up on trying to have any one particular person be the one for me, except for myself. Be the one for yourself and enjoy all the other relationships that fill your life with wonder and joy. So, that's how I know. I have a lot of experiences in dreams and meditations of going to higher levels, meeting people, talking to people. A lot of people have recurring kind of classroom dreams. They're teaching classes or they're in classes at some sort of astral university. I teach at an astral university. I have recurring dreams of teaching classes, of talking with other teachers. I'm a younger teacher in training, but some of the older professors, my higher self, more of my greater being, is this really wonderful professor that I check in with, talking about my life, how things are going. There is a whole higher dimension, a higher level. The real world is all about love, all about peace and love and joy and understanding. And we are learning to fine-tune our reality through this level of belief systems, of the choices you make, the people you're with, how you love and accept yourself on this earth as a human being. So be the spirit, be the human, have wonderful adventures, just be open to your higher self welcoming you home. Be real, get to know thyself. You'll be glad you did. Let's see, I talked for about half an hour. I'm still trying to make short ones. Well, maybe next time. It's a series.